So this last section, harmonic motion, is going to talk about a physical phenomenon that is best represented by our sinusoidal functions. How many of you guys have taken or are in physics already? Did y'all do like spring motion where you like pull a spring and it goes like back and forth and back and forth? That was a question. Did you?
No, I'm asking Jim.
Oh.
No, we did not.
Yes, we did.
Okay, well, theoretically, think about a spring for me. If you have a spring and you're like holding something off the spring, you pull the spring down and let the spring go. What's going to happen to the object at the end of the spring? Yeah, it's going to go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. That's called harmonic motion. And what we're going to do is we're going to assume that friction is negligible, that this would happen and would go over and over and over again. It would repeat this down and up and down and up and down and up, thus creating a sine or a cosine wave. So simple harmonic motion, the movement of a spring or other things that oscillate back and forth, is best represented by the kind of function you see here. So we have two options for you where we have a times the cosine of omega t or a times the sine of omega t. So literally nothing's changed except for the function that we're using, sine or cosine. Do y'all remember the main differences in the graphs of sine and cosine? What's the biggest difference? Yeah, one starts at a midline, one starts at a maximum. Which one starts at a midline? Sine. Let's go ahead and write that reminder for ourselves, which means that cosine starts at a what? Maximum. Specifically maximum, not minimum. If it starts at a minimum, that means we have to reflect the cosine function. I don't know why I wrote the word maximum so far away from that arrow. Let me try again. Okay. The amplitude of the motion is A, which is the same vocabulary word we had before, amplitude. And the period of the function is going to be 2 pi divided by omega. Now, when we did this with regular sines and cosine functions, we used the letter B to represent omega. Just because this is now representing this physical attribute, we are going back to using the W. It's not a W, it's an omega. No, period though is the reciprocal of the frequency. So if the period is 2 pi over W, then the frequency is W over 2 pi. All we have to do is flip the period over and we have the equation for frequency, which is the number of oscillations per unit of time. In this case, it's the number of oscillations in 2 pi radian, so per 2 pi. One of the main things I'm going to ask you to do is understand or write the equations for the motion of a spring or some sort of oscillating object. So in example 1, it says, suppose that an object is attached to a coiled spring, such as the one shown in the figure. It is pulled down a distance of 5 inches from its equilibrium position and then released. The time for one complete oscillation is 4 seconds. So let's see here for a second. If we know that we have pulled this spring down a distance of 5 inches, that means from the equilibrium point down is going to be 5 units. Since this is oscillating up, that means that the amplitude or the distance it will move up is also going to be 5. So we already know that the A value is 5. We need to figure out what the omega for this question will be. Now, if period is 2 pi over omega, that also means that omega can be found by doing 2 pi divided by the period. Which is the same way we had B equal to 2 pi divided by the period. And this already tells us that the period or the time for one complete oscillation is 4 seconds. So what we can do is we can use that information to find omega to be 2 pi divided by 4, or simply pi over 2. If we're writing the equation that best models the position of this object, we found A, we found omega, we need to decide if it's a sine or a cosine function. So we think back to the scenario. If we're starting the scenario by pulling the coil down, are we starting at a midline or a maximum minimum? Maximum minimum. So are we going to use cosine or sine? Cosine. And I'm glad that I said maximum minimum and you guys said minimum or repeated maximum minimum to me, because a cosine function typically starts at a maximum, but if we're starting it at a minimum, what do I need to do with my amplitude, with my A value, to make that happen? Make it negative because it's a reflection. Very good. That's why I left a little space there. I saw it coming. So if we were going to write this equation that best models the time, we would say that I guess I use the letter S. The spring in regards to time would best be represented by -5 times the cosine of pi over 2 times x. So all we have done is plugged in the a and the omega in their correct positions from the equation that's in the box. A omega of t. Oh, and I used an x. What variable should I be using? T for time. My bad. So we have an equation that best models this oscillation of the spring, pulling it down, letting it go, so it goes up and down and up and down and up and down forever and ever. Now that we have an equation, we can determine the position of the spring after 1.5 seconds. So let's say we start a timer, boom. At 1.5 seconds, we want to know what position the spring is at. That means we are asking you to determine S of 1.5, which is really just saying, hey, plug 1.5 into this equation. That's a time, so I put it where t goes. Those of you who did grab your calculator, please make sure, first of all, your calculator is in radian mode, since this motion is in radians. And let's go ahead and see what -5 times the cosine of pi over 2 times 1.5 would give me. 3.5, let's just do one more. 3.54 inches, very good. Now, let's just interpret this for a second. If I got 3.54 inches, does that mean my spring is above or below its equilibrium point?
Above.
Above. What kind of numbers would tell me it's below the equilibrium point? A negative, because we're measuring 0 to be that equilibrium point, so things above it will be positive and things below it would be negative. So that is 3.54 inches above equilibrium. It also asks me to find the frequency. Now, frequency is the reciprocal of the period. So frequency is equal to the reciprocal of the period. What was the period of this function? Even easier than that. 4. So if the period is 4, the frequency means we get one oscillation per 4 units of time, per 4 seconds. So that is 1/4 oscillations per second, or one oscillation in 4 seconds, or 1/4 of an oscillation in 1 second. So we can tell a lot about a motion of an object if we have the equation, or we have at least the amplitude and the omega, and what kind of function best models it. And that's what we're going to do in example 2, but I'm going to wait till after lunch because I know we're all thinking about food. We'll come back from lunch and we'll talk through example 2. Suppose that an object oscillates according to the model S of t equal to 8 sine of 3t. First of all, let's just see some things we know. What is the amplitude of this graph? 8. What is the omega for this graph? 3. Okay. We also know that this is a sine function, which means it starts at a what? Midline or a maximum? Midline. Okay, great. For describing the motion here of this harmonic motion, it says the motion is harmonic because the model is in the form S of t equal to a times the sine of omega t. Because a is equal to 8, like you guys told me, the object oscillates 8 feet in either direction from its starting point. The period of the function, which is always 2 pi divided by omega, which in this case is 3. 2 pi divided by 3 is the period, which is approximately 2.1. Is the time in seconds that it takes for one complete oscillation. The frequency is the reciprocal of the period, so the object completes 3/2 pi oscillations per second. Or if we're making that a little bit more sensible to ourselves, it completes 0.48 oscillations per second, so about half of an oscillation per second. So these formulas that we get actually tell us a lot of information about the motion of the function. And these are the main concepts that you're going to be asked about. Building an equation like we did in example 1, and analyzing an equation like we did in example 2. But what's interesting, if you understand the actual physical world that we live in, it's not going to be, for the most part, simple harmonic motion. We're also going to have what's called damped oscillatory motion, or dampened. In the example of the stretched spring, we disregard the effect of friction. Do y'all know what friction is?
Yeah, yes.
Like, you don't have to use fancy science words. What is friction? It's like a resistance, yeah. So if you like roll a ball, physics tells us what's object in motion stays in motion, right? Yeah. So why does a ball stop when you're rolling it on the ground?
Oh, because of like friction.
Because of friction. Okay, great. So we understand the theoretics behind friction. Friction causes the amplitude of the motion to diminish gradually until the weight comes to rest. In this situation, we say that motion has been damped by the force of friction. Most oscillatory motions are damped. For instance, shock absorbers are put on automobiles in order to damp oscillatory motion. Instead of oscillating up and down for a long time after hitting a bump or a pothole, the oscillations of the car are quickly damped for a smoother ride. Right? Because theoretically, if it was simple harmonic motion, the moment you hit a pothole and your car bounces up and down, it's going to stay bouncing up and down for forever. But we know that's not true. We know that the car settles back down. It's because we've put friction on the springs to dampen the motion. The decrease in the amplitude of a damped oscillatory motion usually follows the pattern of exponential decay. Whoa, throwback. What is exponential decay? Yeah, okay, so Angel just drew kind of a graph with his finger. That's cool. It kind of does this, right? It goes down. Or the other way you drew it, it goes down. As long as we're converging on probably y equal to 0, it is exponential decay. So how does this work? How do these functions bound or create this damped motion? A typical example of damped oscillatory motion is provided by the function s of x equal to e to the negative x times cosine of 2 pi x. We use x rather than t to match the variable for graphing calculators, but this could have been a t just like it was in the other examples. Follow along with me because there's a lot of information about to happen. I need you in your calculator to graph this function in y1, this function in y2, and this function in y3, and then pause. Don't press graph yet. So we have both of these. y1 and y2 are exponential decay functions that we studied in the college algebra portion of this course. And then the third one is an example of damped oscillatory motion. Now, the reason I didn't want you to press graph is because there is going to be some restrictions that we're going to look at in this window. It specifically tells me to have a y minimum of -1 and a y maximum of 1. So I need you to go to the window screen. Legitimate question because I can't remember. Have we used the window screen in this class?
No.
Okay. The window screen has some options for you. One of them is going to be x minimum, x maximum, and then x scale or interval. I forgot what it says. Don't change that one. And then if you go down, there's a y minimum and a y maximum. Do you see these things?
Yes.
Okay. This problem in particular only wants us to look between 0 and 3 on our x-axis. How do I know that? It says it right here. Between 0 and 3 with an x in between. I also see there's only 3 tick marks left for you here, so it's between 0 and 3. Also, it wants you to use a y minimum value of -1 and a y maximum value of 1. If you change those numbers, it says it in the problem. If you change those values on the window setting and then press graph, something very interesting is going to occur, and we're going to sketch it on our graph. Did you do the window? Press graph. So some interesting things are happening, yes?
Yeah.
So that first equation is a negative, or an exponential decay, because it's an exponential e to the x, but the x is negative, and does something like this, yes?
Yes.
Okay, let's sketch that in blue. Our second one is the reflection of that over the x-axis, which means it does something like this.
Yeah.
Yes, follow?
Yeah.
What happens with that third function? It's going to be graphing in black unless you change the colors.
Oh, I didn't do the third one.
What's happening with that wave? It's like in between them, yeah? So if we were sketching this, it would do something like this, where it goes down, but then the amplitude is going to continue to dampen or get less. That's bounded by these two other graphs. This is what scientists and researchers and developers created to dampen oscillatory motion. So your shocks in your car, someone specifically studied them to see how quickly we could get the shock waves to go away to allow you to not like bounce off the walls when it comes to all the potholes in the city.
Okay.
So let's describe this relationship. Describe the relationship amongst the three graphs drawn in part A. The graph of y3, which is, I graphed it in black, but I highlighted it in yellow. It is bounded above by the graph of y1. So remember, y1 is the one that's blue. So it's bounded above by the blue function, and it is bounded below by the pink function. Oops. So these two shapes, these two exponential decay functions, show the boundaries that it's not going to go beyond as we dampen this motion. So we can take what was simple harmonic motion that never changed and went on from negative infinity to infinity, and we can make it less and less and less using this idea of a damped oscillatory motion, which is pretty cool. Questions, comments, concerns?
Would that be on the test?
I don't believe that I picked any of those questions on the test, no. But it is a very cool use of these particular functions. Any other questions? Okay.